What's up guys, Sio here with week 3 of the NES. This week we are taking on Beard, coach of the New York Aqua Jets. We're both 2-0 right now, and we both also have a lot of experience battling each other. So this game, even off the bat, I knew was going to be extremely close and probably one of the hardest games I've played this year, with all due respect to my previous opponents. Just because Beard knows my playstyle and what I like and what I don't like extremely well. We've always had a good back and forth on the channel, even though I actually got a 6-0 with him last year with Tapu Fini, just because he knows my playstyle really well. So even when his teams weren't really that great in terms of synergy and stuff, he always played me close. His team this year is phenomenal. Across the board, he has a ton of fast stuff that outspeeds most of my fast stuff, as well as two of the best own Trick Room users and Stack Attack and Slowbro. I'm gonna get into his stuff later. I was pretty surprised to see neither of those, by the way, but I'll get into his stuff later. Kind of previewing my team here a little bit because I'd put a ton of practice into this week just to have anything somewhat comfortable. We have a Silk Scarf Technician Ambipon with Knockoff, Low Kick, Tail Slap, and Fake Out. Max Attack, Max Speed Jolly to be able to outspeed Gengar. I could have probably crept a little bit better, I guess, in hindsight with that, because I think Gengar's 110 and Ambipop's 115, but that's okay. Basically, this thing's just kind of meant to hit everything on his team. Low Kick does a ton of damage to Stack Attack, which didn't come. And Knockoff actually OHKOs Gengar, and then outside of that he doesn't have a normal resist, so Tail Slap just does a shit ton of damage. Next up is Assault Vest Tapu Fini with Ice Beam, Moonblast, Surf, and Shadow Ball, max HP, max special attack, and a little bit of Speed F. This coverage pretty much hits everything on his team for a 2-go. It's kind of like an offensive Assault Vest set, I guess, kind of just meant to take advantage of Tapu Fini's natural special bulk, as well as just kind of being overall bulky and pivoting into stuff. It's not going to be a win con, and honestly, if it gets a kill, it's only going to be one. But it's kind of just meant to kind of weaken stuff for the late game sleepers that I have this week. Next up is Choice Scarf Kartana with Sacred Sword, Smart Strike, Night Slash, and Aerial Ace. I actually kind of had a little bit of more for move slot syndrome this week because Beard has a lot of complementary coverage. Night Slash is basically on there honestly just to have a neutral hit on Zapdos, because everything else Kartana gets is resisted somehow. So Night Slash is there for that. Aerial Ace is there for Hariyama. Smart Strike is good for neutral damage pretty much across the team, outside of Zapdos of course. And then Sacred Sword's meant for Stack Attack because it OHKOs it OHKOs or does a decent amount of damage even if he gets up to a +1 and I have a little bit of chip damage on it. Next up is Leftovers Miltank with Stealth Rock, Earthquake, Milk Drink, and Thunder Wave, max HP, max defense, and a little bit of attack. Basically just kind of meant to slow down his really fast stuff. Miltank naturally kind of takes a hit from Noivern and even Liepard, I guess, pretty well. Depending on the Alolan Ninetales set, it can also take a hit from that. Basically anything but Zapdos, and then it can set up rocks on Zapdos. When Zapdos goes for a roost, it'll be slower most of the time, and then Miltank can go for an Earthquake. Do a decent amount of chip damage, not a ton, but enough to kind of pressure him into not thinking it's a totally free thing to do, I guess. Next up is Mega Alakazam with Hidden Power Ground, Dazzling Gleams, Psychic, and Shadow Ball. I actually didn't even notice this until I got into the battle, but this is almost identical to the Zamp I ran last week. I think instead of Shock it has Psychic though, just because he has a lot of stuff that gets hit harder on the special side, I guess. 28 HP, 4 defense, 248 special attack, 8 Speed F, and 220 plus speed to outspeed Mega Beedrill. So basically speed creeping Mega Beedrill, being super offensive, and then just putting the rest into bulk as it helped, I guess. But this is a pretty good late game sweeper because after Liepard goes down, he doesn't really have anything to switch into it, really. And then finally we have Assault Vest Alolan Muck making its season debut also with Ice Punch, Brick Break, Poison Jab, and Pursuit. Max HP, max Speed F, and kind of interesting speed creep actually. And it's a reverse speed creep, I guess, because I was so afraid of his Trick Room. So I just barely outspeed an uninvested Slowbro, basically just meant to kind of minimize the amount of damage I take from Gyro Ball, from Stack Attacka, while still outspeeding the things that I needed to outspeed, just so I can hit them. The Muck's so slow that it didn't really matter. Like, I went minus speed nature and like 5 or 6 speed IVs or something. Like, just enough to be able to outspeed, but not enough to like get crept entirely. So with the team that he brought, I was pretty comfortable with most of it outside of Liepard. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I didn't actually really practice for Liepard just because Stack Attacka, Tangrowth, Meowstic, Slowbro, and Gengar were so much scarier. And like with the whole rip thing I had earlier in the week and being late with the Fluka battle, I didn't really have like as much time to practice as I like may have wanted, I guess. But it's okay. Since I had Purloin and Little Cup, I at least kind of know the stuff that Liepard does. But it is definitely an issue this game, I guess. So, note to team preview. He has no resist at all for a Silk Scarf Ambipom. But I do have to be careful with what I assume is going to be a Rocky Helmet Zapdos. It's kind of like his best defensive answer on this team, so I'd be kind of surprised if it wasn't, especially since he knows that Zapdos kind of doesn't like have a good switch on my team. Tapu Fini is kind of just meant to be a pivot for Hariyama, Noivern, and Liepard. So even though it has like a lot of defensive presence this game, I kind of have to be careful with just throwing it in out of nowhere and leaving it in for unnecessary damage, I guess. Kartana has a pretty tough time sweeping whenever Zapdos is around, but it does have the power to do so, as long as it's not Scarf Noivern or Alolan Ninetales. I actually speed tie with a Scarf Alolan Ninetales, which is kind of the reason why I went with a Choice Scarf this week, honestly. Choice Scarf Noivern outspeeds me, and I actually kind of expect it to be Choice Scarf Noivern to be able to outspeed Megazam, because it's just like one of his best Scarfers he has, I guess. And it could be Choice Scarf Liepard, but that would be pretty gimmicky, I think. So I just got to get a little bit of prior damage on some stuff and weaken Zapdos a ton before Kartana can really do anything, I guess. Miltank is very important this week, actually, because it has Stealth Rocks, and he has 4 things that are weak to rocks, and Zapdos is his only, like, reliable defogger, I guess. Noivern gets defog, and Mega Beedrill gets defog too, actually. But I don't really view either of those as, like, good defoggers. Like, they can do it in a pinch, but whatever. So I need to get rocks up as soon as possible, and I almost contemplated leading Miltank this game, but if he led Hariyama, I basically just had to switch directly into Tapu Fini and not really enjoy that hit that much. So spoilers, I don't end up doing that. Mega Alakazam and Alolan Muck look extremely important in this game though, just because Zam basically, as I was saying, outspeeds pretty much everything that I need it to. I have to be careful of Prankster Liepard because it does get Thunder Wave, so I have to be careful to either have Misty Terrain set up or kind of pivot around it, I guess, to make sure that Megazam doesn't get paralyzed, because it does outspeed everything on his team naturally. And finally, Alolan Muck is a good defensive switch because it only takes like 10-20% or so from a Thunderbolt from Zapdos. It can do pretty decent damage back with Ice Punch or Poison Jab and try to get a poison or something. So regarding the team that Beard brought, I kind of already previewed it. I expected pretty much everything but Liepard. I was pretty surprised to not see Stack Attacka. Pretty surprised if he was going to go speedy that he didn't have Scarf Gengar either, because Scarf Gengar hurts a lot. But as I was saying, he doesn't really have a good switch for Ambipom, so I'm just going to go ahead and go Ambipom right now. As he leads Mega Beedrill. A Fake Out actually kills Mega Beedrill, which is kind of, or it doesn't kill, it does 72 to 85, sorry. But Fake Out kills almost, and then I could just pivot into something, so I'm just going to go for it. He goes Zapdos, which is fine. I gauge that that's a physical damage, and of course he has Static and Rocky Helmet, and I get screwed over on the first turn. It was a little risky for me to do that because I did kind of figure he was going to have a Rocky Helmet Zapdos. I was okay with taking the chip damage, but I was kind of hoping to get a little bit luckier on the first turn and not get static. Like, I would have been perfectly fine switching out into Alolan Muck at this point and just being like, okay, that is Fizdef Zapdos, so I gotta be careful with that. But obviously that didn't happen. So Now Ambipomb's paralyzed and doesn't really outspeed very much, even though it doesn't have a switch in on his team, which is kind of annoying. He plays it safe and just goes for a roost right there. So I'm just going to try to go for an Ice Punch. It would be nice to go for a Poison Jab because it has a 60% chance to poison, but Ice Punch does a little bit more to everything on his team that I expect to actually switch into this thing. I don't expect him to go all Ninetales on me at all, and Ice Punch hits this or Noivern or Beedrill a little bit better. So Thunderbolt does 17, which is nice. I get stacked again so in the first 2 turns I got static 3 times, but it's whatever. It's what I get for physically attacking a Zapdos. It clearly has static, I guess. So Ice Punch does like 30% or so, I can afford to kind of go for it again. And then when he roosts, I'll be able to switch out and get Rocks Up is the general plan. I really wish I would have had Heal Bell on Miltank this week, but I didn't really think that it was going to do that much damage to me in practice. I do get a little bit lucky and get the Poison Touch though, and that'll actually kind of help wear down the Zapdos a lot, as well as put it on a little bit more of a timer and make Miltank a little bit better. So even though I got static twice in the first couple of turns, Poison Touch kind of helped balance that out a little bit, I guess, because the paralysis unlock doesn't really matter that much since it's so slow anyway. It kind of sucks a little bit more on Ambipom, but that's fine. So now that Zapdos is in range of being killed with an Ice Punch into Poison, I figure he's going to roost so I can get my Rocks Up for pretty much free now. Melissa comes in, he goes for a roost, I get Rocks Up. If he goes for a Defog right away, that's fine, but he just ends up going Hariyama because that's his clear switch into this. Now that I have Rocks Up, I'm fine with just pivoting into Finny and just taking the hit here. It's not ideal, but I'll take it pretty well. Fake Edelmine does 15, and he shows that he's actually, he wasn't Flame Orb when he switched in, which I thought was kind of interesting. Misty Terrain would have blocked it for a little bit if he was Flame Orb, but if we go back to the previous turn when he switched in on my Stealth Rock, he actually didn't have it. So I get a free Moonblast off here pretty much because nothing really wants to switch in. He shows he's not Hail, which is interesting. I guess he didn't want the chip damage on his own team, but it actually kind of wore down my team a little bit too. So I don't want to take a Freeze Dry because Specs Freeze Dry actually kills Tapu Fini from here. But since he did that damage, it shows that he's not really like super offensive. So I can just go for a Poison Jab, and that almost kills. And at this point, I actually think he's going to go for like a last-ditch Defog to try to help out his team. So I'm going to go hard into Miltank here, instead of trying to get the kill with Poison Jab, because I think I can kill... I don't know if I kill, actually. So he goes for a Roost, gets back up to pretty decent health as Misty Terrain disappears. I figure he's going to Roost again, so I'll just go for an Earthquake to try to chip him down a little bit and keep him low. Between that and Poison, it looks like it's pretty much keeping him about that health, which is fine, because this is revengeable with Ambipom. Especially since it doesn't seem like he has Defog, or he would have went for it already. He gets Hariyama back in, so I just go Tapu Fini again. And he makes a little bit of a confusing double for me. I thought he was predicting me to go hard Alakazam and doubled into Liepard. So I thought I kind of caught him on a double here. I go for a Moonblast because why not? And he actually shows the Z-Gunk shot, which is apparently guaranteed to kill Tapu Fini. I'm going to be perfectly honest, this was just fantastic prep on Beard's part, because, like I said, last season I swept him with Tapu Fini versus his Dark-type, so he made sure in prep that his Dark-type was able to OHKO Tapu Fini, which is just really cool. I kind of forgot Liepard actually got Gunk Shot, or I would have been a little bit more careful there, but I kind of assumed that I actually caught him on a double because I thought he was trying to predict my Mega Alakazam, when really he was just switching into Liepard because it was his dedicated Tapu Fini answer, and he knew that I was going to go Tapu Fini on his Hariyama. So great prep, Beard. Definitely caught me off guard. Now Tapu Fini's not around to take Dracos from Noivern, which is scary. So I'm forced to go Kartana here because Misty Terrain's up and he can't T-Wave me. He's like just out of range of being guaranteed to be killed by Smart Strike, so even though I really want to go for that here, I'm forced to go for a Sacred Sword. He goes Noivern to resist it, and actually takes it pretty well. which actually shows me that he's at least like a little defensive, not like quote unquote defensive, but he does have some like pretty significant investment to be able to take it that well, which is fine. I just kind of got to be careful of that, I guess. So I'm going to go ahead and sack Muck here to what I assume is a Choice Scarf Flamethrower, and it ends up being that. So I'm able to go into Ambipom now because, like I said, he doesn't really have a switch into it. I'm obviously playing around with Paralysis at this point because I don't have Milk Drink, which kind of sucks, or Heal Bell. I have Milk Drink instead of Heal Bell. So if I would have had Heal Bell, Ambipom would have just done like a ridiculous amount this game. But at this point, Fake Out kills, which is kind of silly. So I'm just going to go for that here. I don't get paralyzed. I end up killing the Zapdos, which was causing me a lot of trouble, which is fine. And then he goes Hariyama. I don't really have a switch into this anymore, so I sack Melissa because got Rocks up and didn't really do anything for the rest of the game, which allows me to go to Mega Zam now and just go for the Earth or the Psychic. If he went hard into Liepard there, I would have just gone in for a Dazzling Gleam on the next turn, or went back into Ambipom on his Thunder Wave, I guess, because as he does here, I'm kind of expecting a Thunder Wave, and since I'm already paralyzed on Ambipom, I go back into it. Again, Fake Out kills, which is nice, but I actually get paralyzed this time, and Knockoff ends up killing me instead. Kind of sucks, but kind of expected. Like, that's what you use Paralysis for. So at this point, I need to basically get one of my things paralyzed. Choice Scarf Kartana does actually sweep at this point, but it has a little bit harder of a time doing the Mega Alakazam, so I decided to go for that. He obviously goes for the Thunder Wave. I get lucky and don't get paralyzed, and at this point, as long as I don't like get paralyzed or whatever, I can end up doing damage to pretty much anything. If he didn't go for a Thunder Wave here, I actually would have been able to potentially make a double into Mega Alakazam here, reading his Flamethrower, which only does like 20% or something, and potentially preserve Kartana. But because Kartana's paralyzed and doesn't outspeed anything on his team anymore, I just let it drop. And Mega Alakazam comes in, traces Infiltrator, and we're actually like in a pretty decent position here, because Psychic should be able to clean up this game, I think. Miltank actually gets a kill from Rocks, which is kind of cool, because Miltank kind of deserved it this week. He shows the Shadow Ball, which is terrifying, but because of my investment as well as Alakazam's like pretty naturally good special defense, I actually end up living that 100% of the time unless he gets a crit. The only way he could have killed me on that last turn was if he was Modest Specs or Modest Scarf Draco. Turns out he didn't even have Draco, I guess. But if he didn't have that, the only way he could have cleaned up the end game was getting an Air Slash flinch. I think he may have needed 2, I'm not 100% sure. But basically Mega Alakazam Spit F ends up actually winning me that game, which is kind of cool, because it's able to take a Shadow Ball 100% of the time from a Noivern, especially with the investment that he had. He told me after the game that he was actually a Timid Scarf instead of a Modest Scarf, because he wanted the HP to be able to switch into Kartana a little bit more. So it's kind of nice that Kartana / Mega Alakazam is forcing that kind of awkward like 50-50 split of investment that I was kind of hoping for, where like you either gear towards one or gear towards the other, but like gearing towards both is like pretty much impossible given how AVs work. So it was nice for that to be able to clean up. I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty happy in the first 3 weeks that I've gotten a Tapu Fini sweep, a Kartana sweep, and a Mega Alakazam sweep. Bless you, babe! So I'm pretty happy that the season started off like that. We're 3-0 and heading into week 4 against Snapperkins, coach of the Ruin Hydreigons. He hasn't had his game this week, but I think he's 1-1 from the first 2 weeks. He has a pretty scary team though, so we gotta be careful of that, but overall I'm really happy with this week. Good game, Beard. I feel like we both played really well this week, so like this is as close. Taylor says we also. So this is about as close of a game as we could have possibly had. Like Sam living on 12% with a 1-0 is pretty good. Taylor cheers again. So next week we're taking on the Ruin Hydreigons. Thank you guys for coming by. Drop a like and subscribe if you're new. I'm aiming to keep this season going pretty strong, and have a good one. Bye.